All right. Check. All right. Mic check. 12 seconds live. I believe that's a live feed. I am going live mostly to let viewers ask questions and weigh in on a topic. Okay. I'm basically going live. I'm not talking. Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. I'm trying to figure out this new computer that I just bought and going live to Brandon. What's up, man? Nice. Caught a bunch of threes with the lucky hat. Well done, sir. All right. You're the first person, Tattoo. I've been driving around with the Mark truck for a long time and it didn't ever work. How's my audio? Does it sound good to you guys? I'm kind of far from this microphone. It sounds okay in my ear, so I'm making the assumption that I'm good. And my vision is just bad. Good. Thank you, Brown Bait Company. Appreciate it. Yeah, glad to have you, Tattoo. So anyway, just bought a new laptop and it's got a built-in webcam and it's very nice. And I'm just really kind of trying to review it. Hey, thanks for joining everyone. I typed in there safe fish handling because I've been watching YouTube and you know how that goes. Geez, guys don't handle fish safely. So let's start with that topic. And Dustin, what's up? Yeah, thanks, man. These my dad got those in I think in Maine. And I've got this old cabin. See Chef Boyardee back there in the back, right there. He's got to go. Um, I had a whole theme, had that wallpaper, and in this little room and in the kitchen had matching curtains, matching. I had little figurines with that guy on there. um, I think he's been rocking there since the '70s. But yeah, I'm slowly getting some remodeling done. My dad always likes to go junking using or looking for antiques, looking for old junk. So uh he came across those maps and we mounted them. I just needed something for a background. I've been watching everybody with different stuff and we came up with that idea to use the maps in the background. So I think it looks okay. I need to get a little bit better, I need like a ring light. I've just got an old light. I don't even like it in my eyes, so I keep my hat on. It's probably not the best thing, but that's all right. Anyway, back to the topic. Safe fish handling. Um, I don't know, is there, I think I need to make eye contact here. Yeah, I think it's right. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, thanks, Dustin. I think it adds a nice touch as well. So anyway, watching YouTube and the safe fish handling is just guys don't understand what's going on there. First thing we can touch on is slime coat. Anybody who's ever touched a fish knows that they're slimy, and that slime is there for a reason. It's a protective coating between the fish's skin and the water. And since they live in pond water or lake water, which is full of bacteria and many other things, but um, that slime coat is protective. It helps keep the fish healthy, helps keep stuff out of their body. So if you touch the fish with dry hands, or you boat flip the fish onto dry carpet, what happens is the slime coat is peeled off, and it peels right off like a banana peel. Like you can just peel it, and it takes the slime right off the fish. Now that skin area that had the slime coat removed is exposed when you put the fish back, and you've seen those fluffy cotton, or sometimes they're kind of tan, sometimes they're kind of white, like looks like ick, kind of, if you're familiar with ick in aquariums, um, gross that are on the fish. That's how they get there. Or what's one of the ways they get there. It's not the only way, but that's a good way to give them a bacterial infection. So we don't want to do that. The entire idea of returning the fish uh, is to return it in as good a condition, as possible, with the least amount of chances for getting sick. And that's the opposite of that. That's the best chance. You're giving it all the advantage to the get to illness. You haven't done anything to help protect the fish, handle it that way. So it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when you go on YouTube and you see these guys, they boat flip it, and then it's flopping around on the deck of the boat, and it's usually like it's probably over 10 pounds. I've seen a few videos like that. So not only is it the biggest fish that you've done it to, but it's also how do I say it? The smallest, the biggest bass in the lake are always the smallest population. So there's very few of them, is what I'm getting at. So you don't see it happen with a 1 pound fish. They take the 1 pound fish off the hook and throw it back immediately, and there's probably nothing happening at all to that fish, right? That's the largest of the population, is the small fish. There's plenty of those. All right. If you're going to mishandle one, mishandle that one. But that's the one that's being flipped back quickly. And then you've got the 12 pounder flopping around on dry carpet, out of the water too long, which, if you want to know how long to keep a fish out of the water, it's really easy. As soon as you take the fish out of the water, start holding your breath, right? And keep in mind that you didn't even just get off of a treadmill or something, right? And have a fight. You're just holding your breath. But to do that, keep them out of the water and hold your breath the whole time. When you start running, when you start needing to breathe, that's the time they need to start going back into the water. All right. It's actually a little quicker than that, but that's a good rule of thumb that keeps us all, um, to give such just a general rule of thumb to, help us with not depriving the fish of oxygen, because I know that's another important thing that is kind of ignored. But going back to the slime coat, the dry hands or the dry carpet, uh, removing that bacteria or removing that slime coat and causing the bacterial infections, that is something you'll never see affect the fish. And people have there's a misconception all the time. Like, if you gill one and it's bleeding from the gill profusely, that fish has like a 90% chance of dying. Mortality rate's 90% on that fish. You might as well keep it. But I keep seeing dudes like over and over and over again. Well, I put it back and it swam off fine. Yeah, they're really tough. Bass are too tough for their own good, actually. The whole "it swam off" defense, pun intended, doesn't hold water. Michael, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. So let's not touch the fish with dry hands. Let's not boat flip them onto dry carpet. That's especially important. I went back to that and forgot. The slime coat is especially important to remember starting this time of year, because it doesn't regenerate itself nearly as fast, or really at all, in the wintertime. In the summertime, if you peel the slime coat off, it'll come back pretty fast. The fish is actively feeding, and it's doing well. It's doing its thing in the warm weather, and a lot of times that will probably is a less chance of hurting the fish when it's warm. But when it's cold, that slime coat doesn't regenerate at all. So if you go out there right now and boat flip one up on the carpet and leave it flopping around and take its slime coat off and put it back in this cold water where it's below 60, yeah, you just expose that fish to bacteria for the entire winter. And that's really not good for it. And like I said, usually it's the biggest fish, right? It's usually like I saw two guys hugging and kissing over a 13-pounder. They boat flipped up in there. And man, it was just driving me nuts. I just, I can't even watch it, you know? And they're high fiving and the fish is flipping around on the bottom of the boat. And it's just like terrible, you know? It would give them the same feeling if I just took a fillet knife and filleted that fish right there. Just did them a favor right off the grip and just took 13 pounds and put a fillet knife to it and watch what they would do, you know? Um, but that's exactly what they did, you know? The reality is I was doing the fish a favor, not letting him die slowly because what you guys just did to it, leaving it out for 2.5, 3 minutes, flopping around on dry ground, flopping around on dry dirt. Um, yeah, so it's just a difference of perception, I guess, and it's perceived that it's okay because everybody does it, that you can treat fish that way, and you absolutely should not be treating a fish that way. It's a big part of why I do this. So don't do that. You know, as you know, my followers just don't do that. Just treat them with respect. Second thing you need to do is when you wet your hands, pick them up. If you lip them, that's okay. Try not to leverage their own weight. Let them hang straight down, you know, in the lip, and let the body hang like that. Try not to leverage any weight, the fish's own weight, to paralyze it. You know how when you put some weight against it on its jaw, it'll kind of paralyze the fish and make it a little easier to handle. There's a real fine line there between locking his jaw out and spraining or breaking that jaw. I had a guy send me a video. It's somewhere back on my Instagram feed. I meant to post about it. I'll have to dig it up. Hate the stupid DMs on Instagram because they get buried down there, and you can never find the good stuff again if you're like working or doing whatever. It's, the DMs and Instagram aren't the most effective for me. So if you've sent me something and I missed it, it's just because it got buried in the feed. It's not because I was trying to ignore you. Anyway, it popped. He just heard it, you know. He saw it and heard it. He just broke its jaw, just broke it. And he had been a follower for long enough that he knew to ask me. He goes, "Did I just break that fish's jaw?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you did." And you again, but just put a fillet knife to it. Do him a favor. Um, it's because once its jaw is broken, it's going to starve to death, and it's not going to be able to hunt as properly. It's not going to be able to flare its mouth properly to create that vacuum to pull prey in. Um, Dustin's got a question. He said nobody out there is soaking their carpet, but they boat flip a fish for argument's sake, and they say, "Yeah, actually, I'm fine with that, man. If the carpet's wet, you know, a boat flip's technically not the worst way to land one. Um, you know, when you put a net into the water, it wets the fish, or I'm sorry, it wets the surface that the fish is going to touch, right? So if you were just to wet the boat, um, Oliver and I talked about on Big Bass Streams. You know, he's a boat flipper. He probably is the one that got a lot of people boat flipping fish to begin with. And I said the same thing to him. You know, that sea deck surface that he works off of is nice. You know, it's soft. It doesn't have any sharp edges, and anything to hurt a fish's eyes or stab them or whatever. And as long as it's a wet surface, I don't really have a problem with if you want to boat flip it. It's when you boat flip it onto a 115-degree completely dry boat carpet, or I think aluminum's even worse. You can, but if you ever have one, if you ever see somebody set one on aluminum, you can see the slime coat on the aluminum really easy. Like it's just like, oh, you just left all half that fish's slime on the boat. You could even feel it on there too, you know. Um, so just trying to spread awareness, bring that idea in. that you know, if you're going to be releasing the fish, let's do everything that we can do to not make it sick instead of doing everything we can do to make it sick and then pretending like we're big stewards of the environment by releasing. That's what I see on YouTube all the time. It's like you acting like they've done this fish a favor after they suffocated it and messed up its slime coat and busted its jaw. Now we're going to pretend like, we're saving the world by releasing it. I mean, you should have put it in a cooler if you're going to treat it like that. And just like I said, do it a favor because it's not going to have a happy, healthy life after that endeavor. Wilson. Wilson is not afraid to keep a fish. All right. I can vouch for that. Funny story. So I've known Mickey since, we're going to date ourselves here, Wilson. 1991. That was the year that I started college. And I was standing in line to get my lunchroom card, and I was down at Valdosta State in South Georgia at the university there. It was a long time ago. Or I don't know. Sometimes it feels like a long time ago, man. Sometimes it feels like last week. You know what I'm saying? But so Mickey was standing in front of or standing right in front of me in line, and so we got to shooting the breeze. And back then I was in good physical shape and played a little basketball in high school and stuff. And he liked to play ball, and he liked to fish. And it was kind of like that Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? And we did, and we've been friends a long time. So I've done a few videos on it, but we're gonna go a little deeper into the Wilson farm. He's got a couple ponds over there in Thomasville, and I, started fishing in those ponds. Then, that was before I got to Georgia and before I went into fishery school. So the had a lot of experience fishing other ponds as well. I fished the ponds every day around my house in North Georgia. I grew up around Cumming, Georgia. But those ponds, and those fish populations in those ponds turned into data once I learned pond management because I could think back to the ponds that had crappie that were really hard to catch fish in, and the ponds that were stunning with bass, and there was a pond that it wasn't stunning with bass that you could catch better bass in, and all those things. Instead of just being like that's the good pond and that's the pond that's hard, it became information. It became data. All right, Brendan. Talk to you later, buddy. Um, so the bigger pond on Wilson's farm over there is about 10 acres, and it's got a crappie population. And that he drained him and his family drained and restocked that pond many years ago now. I called him. I told him, hey man, I figured out. We learned in class what's wrong with. Sometimes you'll hear us call it the new pond, or sometimes you'll hear us call it Texas pond, but it's got many names. But at the bigger pond there, and what you need to do to correct it, and they did, and it turned into a wonderful place to fish. But since then, it's reverted back, and it's kind of back into the same place. It's not in the exact same place that it was, um, but I just want to touch on. We're going to use that pond as a learning tool for everybody who has a pond because it's just a perfect example of what you see most of the time in pond management and how fisheries change over time. People definitely don't get that. When they first build a pond or a lake, you'll see it. It'll be a situation where it's in kind of a perfect balance, or at least as perfect a balance as it's ever going to have. And the competing fish species haven't had a time to take over. Um, so the fish in there's more nutrients in the soil. There's a lot of things that kind of go into making a new pond or lake have new lake effect. But the bottom line, without reviewing all that crap, um, fish grow like crazy in new lakes. for about the first 7 or 8 years. It's ridiculous. It's after that that things start to go downhill. And those first 7 or 8 years, people catch a lot of big fish and it gets kind of stuck. That perception of that gets stuck in their mind. And I think it's a combination of that and a combination of they also assume incorrectly that it takes a long time for a bass to grow. And as we've seen, it does not. You can have 12-pound bass in 4 years in the South, anyway. So they think that the longer the lake is there, the better it is for big fish growth, when it's actually the exact opposite of that. The longer the lake is there, the more chances other fish have come down the river, come down the stream, or been brought in with buckets and thrown in. The more chance that there is, because it's like, again, we used this example many times, like a pie, right? And three-quarters of the pie should be good, beneficial forage, or a quarter of the pie should be predatory fish. If it gets full of crappie and yellow perch and flathead catfish and Lord knows what else can get into the lake, it's diversifying that forage base up and diversifying those predators up. So you haven't increased the amount of fish in the lake. You just decrease the amount of food per individual fish with the more species of fish that get introduced into the system. So just general trends, generally speaking, the older the lake is, the more diverse the population, the worse the fishing for any one individual, like bluegill or crappie or bass. All of them seem to, decrease over time. That's just how it is. And that's why I recommend that people drain and restock their pond, because you can capture, if you drain and restock your pond every 8 or 10 years and expose that bottom to the air, you can greatly improve your chance. You greatly improve water quality, and greatly improve your chances of always catching nice fish, because the balance is perfect. Yeah, Mickey's coming in. He says best recommendation ever, and we've been threatening to sit down and, like, I just got this computer, Wilson. I don't think you were on here. I've got a brand new laptop, and that's what I was doing when I was going live, making sure I can plug it in and work this thing. Um, I know there's a feature hidden somewhere on here we could split the screen and talk about this stuff, and we're definitely going to do that. Probably not tonight, but I got to figure it out. Yeah, man, this laptop is going to be sweet. I'm having problems too, like getting signed up in Google, getting signed up on YouTube. You have all these like forms you have to fill out or whatever on here, and it's like you can't see all the buttons. Like it's still like YouTube is still designed to do from a computer, if that makes sense. You can't do everything from the phone that you need to do. Is what I'm trying to say. It's like you watch a YouTube tutorial and it says, okay, if you want to, manage your channel, go in here and click this, and that option is not even there. Um, because it's not a computer when you're using a tablet or the phone. So I coughed up $1,500 for this new laptop thing, and I'm gonna try to do better edits on my videos too. So the laptop will be good for that. Anyway, glad to have you, Wilson. Let me scroll back up, make sure I didn't miss anything there. Oops, it's not scrolling. See? Oh, I see. No. Oh, I see how it works. Oh, that's actually nicer. See, once you learn how to use this thing. Flipping Kick says a fountain of knowledge. Thanks, man. So back to safe fish handling. Oh, there's a cute question and answer section right there. I can start a Q&A. Yeah, Mickey, we'll definitely do that, man. Just let me know when you're gonna be in Thomasville again, and probably easier to do it from there since this is a laptop. It'll be mobile, and I think we can just set this microphone in between us. I've learned that audio is way more important than your video quality when on YouTube. You can do terrible videos. Actually, sometimes it seems like the worse video, the better the viewers. Like the more people don't mind a bad video, but man, if you don't have good audio, they click right off. It's pretty amazing. Big Malone, what's up? So back to safe fish handling. So if you lip the fish, let the fish's body hang straight down. Don't leverage its own weight against its jaw and bust it. That's bad. Also, if you're going to do one of those, grip and grin kind of photo things, put your hand. Don't really do it down on the tail of the fish. Use your hand. Remember to wet your hands and support the belly. And what you're trying to do is lift the internal organs because the fish is usually used to living in the water, and its internal organs float. So when you take it out, all its internal organs sag down, right? And gravity's pulling on it in an unnatural way. It doesn't like that. It's not good for it. And if you put your hand up underneath there and just give that belly some support, it helps lift those internal organs up, and it helps. It's just safer for the fish that way. And I've never seen anybody talk about that. We try to talk about it here as much as possible, but it's very important that you use two hands on the horizontal hold and support the internal organs while you're doing it. Um, to me, when you see guys holding the fish the wrong way, this is not really hard stuff, or really, like, this is like day one, week one stuff when you go to fish school. So you kind of know that they haven't even made an attempt to read any kind of a book about how to handle fish safely. They're just kind of going off what they've seen before. And that's a natural, mistake to make, and one that I made as well. But as soon as I got to school and learned those facts about, fish physiology, I stopped doing it. And it's really hard sometimes to get dudes to listen to that. I don't know why. I don't know why new information is, especially coming from somebody who went to school about it, you know? Um, I know if you're an engineer and we have an engineering question and I ask you your opinion on that, and you've been educated in the field, I certainly wouldn't argue with the engineer. But for some reason, since we're talking about fish, uh, I get some arguing. Anyway, nets are okay. I like nets. Like I said, you can put a net in the water, you wet the surface, and actually, I did again a bad video that got a lot of views about how to use that cheap hook. If you have just a cheap scale with the hook, don't put the hook in the fish's gill and try to weigh it like that. Put it in the net and either zero the net out so it's not counting the weight of the net, or just put the fish in the net, weigh the whole thing, take the fish out, and subtract the weight of the net. They're usually a pound or two. So, if your net weighs a pound and you get five, just take a pound off. The fish weighed four. But when the fish is down in the net like that, like I said, it's touching a dry surface, but it also has a lot more surface area, I guess is the right word, of things, helping its belly, helping it touch the fish, giving it some lift. That and it's also in the net. You're not going to accidentally drop it. It's not going to slip out of your hands and go to the boat and then take the slime coat off. So there's a lot of benefits to using a net for safely returning your fish into the water. And another thing too, like if you have the fish in the net and it's taken a while to get the hook out, kind of falls back on what we just said. You got the fish out of the water longer than you can hold your own breath. All right, that fish is starting to have problems with oxygen. So just put it in the net and put it back in the water and let it sit there for a few minutes. Let it breathe. Let it catch its breath. Um, then take it out, get your pictures, and then return the fish to the lake. Just it seems like common sense, but it's just so many people just don't do that, and we're not being good stewards to the fish when we don't handle them properly. All right. I'm just reading the feed there, and I don't see. It looks like guys are chatting amongst themselves. Uh-oh, I clicked something. What did I click wrong? Oh, there we go. I got the new computer blues. I don't know what I'm doing, boys. Not knowing what buttons to push or where. My vision is still awful. I need to go to the eye doctor. At least this chat window is way bigger than the old chat window on the tablet. I don't see any questions for me in there. If you guys have anything, drop it. But yeah, I don't know, boys. Um, Thanks for following and listening to me ramble on about this crap, because somewhere in there's mixed in some tidbits of good information, and I know it gets out to a lot of people. You guys talk, and now there's 10 people on here. Sweet. Appreciate that. Run up the viewers. Man, my viewership numbers have been killing on YouTube. Um, like I said, I think I need to do some more editing, some better editing, I need some do some like editing tricks at the beginning of the videos to hook people who aren't necessarily followers right now. But the numbers are great on there. It's just going up and up and up. And I'll be monetized. And I've been watching some videos on YouTube monetization. And once you get monetized on there, you can make some pretty good money. So I'm glad about that. There's nothing wrong with making money, right? Because I certainly haven't been. Instagram's kind of been a joke. I never really got on there with the intention of making money. I just wanted to help the fish. But the whole time, it seemed like just within a few months, they'd send you into all this information, or it'd circle online about how you're going to be getting paid, getting paid, getting paid. Just hang in there. We've got all these things coming down the line where you're going to be getting paid, and it kind of feels like a carrot, they're dangling something right in front of you here for 4 years now. And they did start paying a little bit, but then they took it away, and now they're paying for Facebook. But I don't know why, but Facebook has like 3,400 followers for aquatic biologist, and Instagram has like I think over 17,000 now. But they split it apart, so it's like you're only getting paid for the 3,400 people watching, which last month was a whopping $2.18. So yeah, right, flipping. Come on, man. $2.18 for 30 years. I'm an expert in my field. I got a degree in the subject, and you guys are going to give me $2? That was a mistake. You should have just not even done it. Because now I'm just pissed. Dude, Malone, you're not kidding, man. Editing is some work. All this is some work, and to be out here working like this, and not making any money, shoot, man. And I mean, that's okay. If you want to, like I said, I didn't get into this with the intention of making any money, but at the same time, don't be telling me I'm gonna be making money, and then when I finally can get a check, it's like $2. That's just insulting. But YouTube's not like that at all, man. Like you get 500-600 bucks a month on your first check, from what I noticed, for what they're saying anyway. I haven't gotten any checks like that, but shoot, man, I'll take 500 bucks. That's a good deal. And then I learned about, and that's another reason why I got the computer, the affiliate, I think Amazon affiliate or whatever. I got to get that. And I couldn't get any of that stuff to work through Amazon. So I'm going to fall back down that rabbit hole tonight when I get off here and try to get that thing applied for and get approved on that, because then you can make a shop, and then you can put all the stuff that you talk about. Like the only people I know who really do a lot of it is like tactical bassing dudes, where they'll put links in the description of the videos, and then anybody who clicks on that link gets paid. They get a percentage of that sale if people buy stuff. And that's another way that YouTube's way better. You can link all this stuff into your Amazon store, and then make money on whatever you link to, lures or whatever people buy from you. You can make money on. So I'm gonna do that. Why not? I got plenty of things I can do videos about. So that's kind of looking forward there on the page, the plans, and why I bought this fancy computer. 11 folks. Hey man, thanks for joining. Wilson says, oops, well, I clicked it and then it went away. Yeah, man. Wilson says he hasn't seen anyone share this kind of information anywhere, and they don't. Um, and even you won't even see fisheries biologists know a lot of this stuff because it's kind of interesting. Guys tell me all the time. I don't want to rain on their parade, but they tell me all the time, man, I want to go to fisheries school and learn all this stuff. Um, Although I did learn a lot of this in fisheries school, um, it was incredibly difficult because most of the time you will not be talking about bass fishing. And as a matter of fact, it's the opposite. Most of the time, if you even mention a bass, because people go there thinking they're going to get a bass degree, and it's not about that. It's about green-sided darters and long-nosed dace and species diversity and Latin names and absolutely none of the stuff. I had one good professor that would to still talk back. He was a bass fisherman, so he would talk bass fishing with us, and that was Ronnie Gilbert. And Dr. Gilbert, we just lost him actually recently, but he was an invaluable resource, an unreplaceable person for fisheries. Just a brilliant dude. And I was very fortunate to know him and do some projects with him and work around him. And I certainly would not be here without him. And yeah, Ronnie was a incredible, incredible source of information for fisheries. And well, just like Mickey said, not many people talk about this stuff. That's because not many people knew Ronnie Gilbert. So thanks to Ronnie. Sorry, he's gone. Um, oh, see, there's one thing I don't like about this chat window. There's like a big heart that blocks what you guys say. But yeah, I'm doing my best. Is that Sicaro? Again, my eyes are bad. Um, yeah, I'm doing my best, man. Thanks for hanging with me and being patient with my one man band operation I got going over here. I got I wear many hats, and I did not grow up in the age of technology. I was almost 30 when I had my first cell phone, and that's not because um, I had anything against cell phones. It's because that's when they came out. Graduating from the flip phone to the real thing has been a learning experience, and computers have always been a challenge for me because I didn't grow up with one. Um, Me and Wilson were rocking the Atari 2600 back in the day, one button and a joystick. You feel me? They didn't have all this stuff. Oh, the map, Malone. We were talking about earlier. Those are old nautical maps that my dad found at a antique store when he was antiquing up in Maine several years ago. And I've watched a lot of this stuff, and I knew I had to get some audio. I knew I had to upgrade this equipment just for this, just for the sake of making it watchable. And one of the things that came to mind was the background. Just something that kind of looked like fisheries, but what's up, Corey? That's the idea we came up with. We had those old maps laying around, and I actually took them down to Michael's and got them dry matted, dry. I don't know. They put pictures. It's matted on foam board, and they put pictures on there on that dry board. And so I had that done to those big maps, and just stuck them on the wall back there. I got to remodel this room. It's been a minute since this room has been remodeled. This is an old cabin from like the '60s that I bought down here in Florida. So it's got its own challenges. It's old like us. Yeah, thanks, man. I think it looks good. I like it. Pong. Michael's talking about Pong. He must be an old dude like us. Absolutely, man. Pong, Asteroids, Pac-Man. I had Pac-Man when it came out on the cartridge, man. Used to play that dumb thing. I'd like to play that again, actually. I'd like to get an old 2600, but it's probably $1.5 million. I should have kept all that stuff. You know what else I had, man? I had the original um, Star Wars action figures. I had the Wookiee, I had Darth Vader, I had some stormtroopers, Luke and Leia, Han Solo. Had a whole kit. My mom, I don't know how my mom found that back in the day, man. Because it'd probably been like the late 70s that came out. I was just a little dude. But yeah, man, I had all that. It's all gone. I didn't keep any of it. It found its way to the trash can eventually. And my God, that would have been worth some money. All right. I'd like to get rid of that. I don't There's a heart that sits right on the chat window. So when questions come up, the heart kind of blocks what you guys are saying. So there's a question and an answer. Oh, I see. That's cool. What question should I ask? I got a gnat in here trying to kill him. Let me think of a question. Anyway, so yeah, I was talking on safe fish handling for anybody who's new in here, and we were talking about slime coat and protect the jaw, protect the internal organs. Is there anything else that comes to mind? There's probably a million things that I'm not thinking of. Oh, we can talk about tanks. So, like your live well, right? One thing that I have in mind when I'm going to be keeping fish, like I had it for my electrofishing boat, is compressed oxygen aeration. You can get these little bubble stones. There one actually I had one. I think I took it to the shop. Um, it's just a little rock that the it's oxygen bottle like the emphysema people, like old people who wear the oxygen. You just get that, and then you take that hose down into a bubble stone. It's a special one. You can't just put it on any one, but they're not too bad. You can just order them on the internet. Again, that's one of those things I'll link on my thing when people can I can get a cut of that. I'll do bubble stones. There's probably like the whole kit. You can probably get the oxygen and all that. So anyway, I'll link that in my store, and then then I can sell that, and then I'll be a millionaire. I can build my own lake, and you guys can come fish it. Got to have dreams, right? So anyway, bubble stone down to the oxygen. So you're bubbling 100% oxygen up into the water, and the bubble stone breaks those bubbles up. So imagine if you had like a big air bubble like this big, right? And it just goes up through the water column. Well, all of the oxygen that's not at the surface of the bubble is wasted. When it hits the top and pops, all that oxygen gets released in the atmosphere and you waste it. So what that bubble stone does is it turns up instead of having big bubbles like this, it's tiny little microscopic bubbles. So they almost float like a fog in the water. It takes them a long time. They're so small, they don't even float straight up. They kind of drift in the water. So that increases the surface area and takes it away from that bloop type of bubble to drifting in the water. And that is really good for oxygenating fish because that bubble is 100% oxygen, right? Not just like atmospheric oxygen is like 20%. So you can stack a lot more fish into the same amount of water if you use compressed oxygen. And if you look on all the professional trucks, they usually have liquid oxygen, which is just one step heavier than compressing it down into the bottle is just compressed air. If you compress it hard enough and really mash it in there, that oxygen it turns into a liquid. And then, but it's the same thing. It's the same idea. It's 100% oxygen. So when you get 100% oxygen bubbles in the water, you can hold more, it's safer for your fish in a tank. And we would also put like those additives to protect the slime coat. Go back to the beginning of the video, touch on that. That helps for safe fish handling. And also there'll be some salt, either rock salt you can add yourself, or if you use those little things you can buy, those packs you can buy, there'll be salt in there, and that aids in what's called osmoregulation. And that's a big kind of stupid, confusing word. But what that means is, since freshwater fish are kind of starved for salt, much like a runner, like a long distance runner. You know how they like collapse at the end of a long race because their electrolytes get too low? Well, that's pretty easy to happen for a fish because they live in an environment where there's really low salt content to begin with. And their bodies are designed to capture and keep as much salt as possible. So that internal balance, that battle for trying to capture salt out of the environment and keep it so they can keep the right amount of electrolytes, is called osmoregulation. So that's what that means. It's basically like giving some Gatorade to your fish. So if you put those packets, or you put maybe like a handful of rock salt in a 20 gallons, it doesn't take much salt, but it's a huge benefit to your fish because of that osmoregulation, because of that salt loss. It just goes right in through their gills. And that's important for hauling fish in a tank. We always put some salt in there, and don't put iodine. I can't say that word. Salt with iodine. Don't use that salt. Use non-iodized salt, or like rock salt, road salt, whatever. Doesn't have iodine. Iodine is bad for them. So if you do that, you increase. Like, I know some of the studies that I saw, like 90% of the bluegill mortality was alleviated just by adding a little bit of salt to the tanks. So it's a tremendous health advantage to the fish. And I like those products. Again, there's another idea. Those products I can link in my store that people can buy, and I can get a cut when I do videos like this from now on. That would be awesome. Got some comments. Let me read them. Malone says his house was built in 1952, and the real hardwoods. Yeah, man, that's nice. All right, here's a good question. If you were to put copper nose in an acre and a half pond, how many do you feel would be sufficient? All right, so it depends. Is there bass already there or not? If it's a new pond, you can stock. Hey, what's up, Steven? Good to see you, man. Steven is a biologist. Steven is actually one of the smartest people I know. If you guys have any fish questions, you can ask him as well. We went to school together at Georgia, and he was always the kind of dude that could like tell you what page on the book it was that we were talking about. If you read it one time, he'll have it. He's a sharp dude. He works for the extension service for the university, and helps people. Like, if you call in Georgia, if you call, the extension service for fisheries related stuff, you'll get Steven. Very, very good resource. Very, very smart guy. Very, very good guy. Good to have you here, Steven. I was talking about something. Oh, an acre and a half pond. So if you stock an acre and a half pond, well, I'll just give you the like Sugar Hill, our example pond that we've been using. So what I did is I stocked about 1,000 per acre. Had about 700 of them were just really smalls, 2 to 3s, and, they can't spawn. So I just put them in there because I wanted, for lack of a better term, filler. I didn't want any other fish. It's because there was a stream feeding it. If any fish got in there, I wanted them to have competition. I didn't want them to have the run of the pond for any amount of time. So those 2 to 3-inch fish went in, but I also stocked 4 to 6s, and they're much more expensive. But 4 to 6-inch, once bluegill are over 3 inches, they're big enough to spawn. So I put the 4 to 6s in there. So as soon as the water warmed up, they began spawning. So a 3-inch bluegill can lay 10,000 eggs. So I only put like 200, I think it was 200 or 250 per acre of the 4 to 6s, but there was no bass in the pond at all, right? So that, once they began spawning, I had 200 fish. So let's just say 100 of them were females. So 100 fish, as soon as it got warm, laid 10,000 eggs each, right? And that went right into the pond. Now, most of those fish, like, it depends on how much zooplankton you have. As soon as they're born, they begin eating zooplankton. If there's not any zooplankton there, they just starve and die. So you get millions and millions of fish born, if not billions of bluegill born into your pond that starve almost immediately because they survival of the fittest, right? They don't have the food and they die. And you don't even really see it. They're so small. But that stocked my pond for me, right? Because it can, if it holds whatever rate it is, wherever you are in the country, when those fish are spawning in with no bass, um, that's kind of stocking the pond for you. So I had a diversity of size right off the bat. I had 2 to 3 inch bluegill, 750 of those per acre, and then I had 4 to 6 inch bluegill, a couple hundred of those per acre. But those were spawning, and little fish were coming in immediately behind them. So any fish that died, or if there's any more room in the pond, you know, I use it in that way to fill the pond up literally with bluegill because we didn't stock any other kinds of fish. Um, well, red ear, I did put red ear in there, but there, it was intentionally done that way too because people get confused. It's like they see the lake and they think their pond needs all the fish in it that the lake have, and you're shooting yourself right in the foot when you do that. You don't want that kind of diversity in the pond because the space is limited. A big lake is a different place. You want the bluegill and the bass, and like I said, a few red ear. You can have some grass carp. You could even mix in a few channel catfish if you want to, but there's certain species of fish that you do not want in small ponds, and it'll mess everything up. Yeah, see, listen to Steven, man. He's a smart dude. Bluegill are the best forage, and balance is key. That's right. That's exactly right. Um, so what it is called recruitment, right? And it's just like you saw what Georgia did to Ole Miss yesterday, right? Well, why? Why? How are they capable of doing that to people repeatedly? Because they recruit like monsters. Some beast of a kid comes in there, right? And then he leaves and goes pro, but we got another beast of a kid right behind him, and we got him 30, 40 deep. It's ridiculous. Good job, Kirby Smart. You're doing a great job, man. So we literally have like three lines. We have three defensive lines and we rotate 30 people on defense, and it's like no fall off. They're all 5 stars, 4 stars. Like there's no fall off. When they put the twos in, they just run through people because they would start anywhere else. There's 2 starting teams there. And that's what Kirby's designed. It's a brilliant way to play because, yeah, just like Ole Miss, they come down, they drive down, they score on the first drive. Okay, good for you. What are you going to be doing on the last drive, the important drive, right? So the same concept applies in our ponds. When we have a good bluegill population that's not being impacted by anything else, it's just bluegill themselves and bass feeding on them. And when a bass eats that bluegill, we've got another one coming in right behind it. Born, it'll be right there because bluegill spawn so much. And that's really important to understand that it's not the diversity of, you don't really want golden shiners. You don't really want all those other fish because they don't spawn like bluegill do. Um, and it messes up the recruitment when you have a diversified forage base in a pond. So it's very counterintuitive, right? But as Stephen and I went to school together, he can attest to what we're saying here. I was just talking about Ronnie, Stephen, and what a incredible resource he was for us, and how good a job that he did, and that even a lot of these fisheries kids that are going to fisheries school aren't getting the same kind of education that we got because they don't have Ronnie. And And that's, we learned all this stuff. And Dr. Gilbert showed us all this stuff. He's like, look at this pond and look at this fish. Look how big this fish is. And now let's go over to this pond and like look at all the diversity here. And as soon as you get into the ponds with the diversity of species, the bass growth goes down. Actually, all the fish suffer really. The bluegill won't be as big, and the bass won't be as big. So it's I don't know. Like I said, it's counterintuitive, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I hope that helps. All right, let me scroll back through, make sure I didn't miss any questions. If you guys have a question, just throw it in there. All right, back to the map. So I haven't covered that. The Atari stuff. Yep, we got that. Copper nose. Hope that helps, Big Malone, on your copper nose question. If you have another one, just drop it down there. And let's see, we're going with yeah, sure, sure, Malone. That's no problem, man. I'm glad it helps, man. I'm glad that we can put 17 people, man. We're rocking out. Appreciate that. We're gonna be YouTube rich. I doubt it. Sometimes I wonder if you need to dumb the information down to be popular on the internet. Did I say that out loud? It's like, why are the stupid things popular, man? I don't know, but they are. Oh, how do they survey? That's a good question, Corey. Corey's writing in there. How do they survey? And I think it says large lake. Again, I got an icon blocking it. Electrofishing boats. Actually, they are pretty effective, Corey, because you can. It depends on what you're going after, but all the fish start out around the edge, right? So the electrofishing boat will show you the small fish. And it is biased. It's actually electrofishing boats are biased towards bigger fish, and the idea there is because the fish is bigger, it has more surface area in the water, much like the oxygen bubbles we were just talking about. But a bigger fish has more surface area, so it gets shocked a lot harder than the small fish. um, you'll see the small fish like under 2 inches, I'd say, probably right in there. Will just swim right through the electricity. It doesn't bother them really as much. You won't sample them. But that's okay because you can get the ones that are a little bit bigger and you can ID the species. And yeah, you'll notice the state biologist guys, it's part of their job. They run those electrofishing surveys. Another thing too, you won't see them doing in the daytime because fish loosen up off cover and spread out at night. And your electrofishing surveys are always you always collect more and more diversity in big lakes like that, especially if you do the survey at night. And it has a secondary benefit doing it at night. They do it at night just because when you're spending man hours every year, you want to catch the most amount of fish in the least amount of time because that's just they're budgeted that way. It makes sense, like any business. Um, but it's a secondary benefit doing it at night is you don't have people following the boat around as much, and most people are up and away from the danger because an electrofishing boat is very dangerous. You can ask Steven about that. He got on a boat one time with flip flops, and that was a mistake. It was a good learning experience for all of us. Fortunately, he shocked him, not me. But an electrofishing boat is a dangerous, dangerous tool. And yeah, I hear you, man. I try. Uh, Ronnie was Ronnie was my hero. How important is shade to pond health? Nathan's coming in with a question. Oh, well, to finish up with Corey's question, you can do other kinds of sampling too. You can do like traps, like you can fish traps. You can do gill nets. Um, I've done some surveys when I was younger with gill nets, and had game wardens pretty much pop a stroke on us before. Steven and I have done some backpack electrofishing surveys in the Appalachians and had a few run-ins with some pistol gripping game wardens ourselves. They didn't get the memo that we'd be sampling. We had all the paperwork and everything. We didn't get in any trouble, but man, those guys. I think that one dude thought we stole the van from Georgia to come poach his trout, didn't he, Steven? Dude was pissed. But Nathan's coming through here, um, asking about shade and how important it is to pond health. Well, definitely like shade, and I don't think that I think whatever like if there's no shade around your pond, that's okay. The fish will get used to it. I don't know that I can't think of any reason that it would negatively impact the health. But at the flip side of that, and working on all those electrofishing boats all those years, I noticed like we do a shock survey and go down a bank, right? And there's nothing on it, no, you don't sample much fish, nothing going on. Well, later in the afternoon, you'd be out there and shade would come across that bank. And I would put it, I would just try to run the survey for a certain amount of time. Um, and I would put the boat back in the shade for my own benefit, not really for the fish. I just want to get out of the sun for a second. But I found real quickly that the bank that had no bass on it suddenly had bass on it again just because there was a shade line there. And you could go down that edge of that shade line and, sample the fish, which is good. Like I said, that's what we were there to do. But then, my fisherman brain kicked in and was like, there wasn't any fish here a minute ago. This morning or this afternoon at lunchtime, there's no fish here. And now we just took, 6 or 8 fish off the shade line. So that turned into me watching for shade while I was fishing. And I noticed too that the fish that stack up on the shade are probably actively feeding. And it makes sense when you think about it. It gives them a visual advantage. Anything in the dark can't be seen by anything in the light. It works out. It works on the ground out here, like a hunter, sitting up in a blind. You can't see him in there, right? Or a sniper sitting up in a little spot. It's got some shade in there. You can't see him in there. Same thing. Bass just a sniper, and he goes in that shade line, and he has that visual advantage where a fish will get closer to them because they don't realize that they're there, you know. And I just noticed like sometimes in the afternoons when the shade starts coming across there and you put a lure down that shade line, well, you're putting it right down where the most actively feeding bass are, so that improves your chances of catching fish. So we absolutely love shade lines for that reason. And I've been talking about that online for 4 years now, and I've had a lot of guys who didn't kind of put that together as I didn't either, until I started messing around with fisheries and never really noticed it as a boy, even though I fished all the time. It was kind of something I came across in my 20s there. I hope that helps. Boy, I did too hit the kill. Patrick, man, he's still talking smack. You're only here because I hit the kill switch, Steven. Remember that, right? Yeah. I remember it vividly. He was hollering and I killed it. And because what happened, his foot slipped off of a flip flop and there was some water on the deck and it completed the circuit and he got juiced. And you didn't want none of that old Type 6 box, man. That thing had the heat to it, boy. You start pulling 1500 volts and 3 amp. Well, actually, Mickey Wilson is a commercial electrician. He can tell you, Wilson, what does 1500 volts pulling 3 amps do to your ass? Yeah, you want none of that. None. And yeah, Steven went to hollering and I smacked the kill switch because our boat back then, the kill switch was on the front. So if you were to fall out, your foot comes off the switch and it keeps you from hitting the water and getting shocked. But the problem was is somehow with the water, either on the net or on the boat, or maybe it made some kind of connection somehow. And I'm really not sure how it did that, used to even to this day. But his foot got into onto the boat because he had flip flops on and he had bare skin, and that somehow completed the circuit and it shocked him. but then he couldn't move because the electricity was hitting him. And I had to kill it at the back on there was a switch on the box so I could kill it and stop it from shocking him because he the way he was pinned up there, it wasn't going to quit until he was gone. And yeah, hurts. Exactly. Um remember we were real lucky that there wasn't, he didn't have like a cardiac episode from that. Probably would have if we were older men. But that was a scary day that day, man. We joke about it now, but it was not funny. It's not funny at all, really. It's very dangerous. And if you guys are ever around an electrofishing boat, keep that in mind. Do not, It's not a toy, not even close. Um, I've seen some people I popped myself one time and got lucky that I didn't kill myself with the stupid thing. But my rig was a much smaller rig, because I could get away with it and because of for safety purposes, when I figured out that I could scale it down, not use that old Type 6 box, I went right to it because, high voltage, high amperage electricity is very dangerous. Josh, you fishing that shade line more? There you go, brother. Hope that helps your fishing. The lights went out? Yeah, no doubt, Wilson. For real. Want none of that. Well, I have run my mouth until it's dry. I didn't bring anything to drink, and I'm going to start sounding bad and getting a raspy voice. So I think I'm going to cut it off on you boys. But unless you guys have any more questions, I'll wait here for a second. Sometimes when we talk about stuff like that, it'll bring a question or two up. But I'm about to start choking. Public speaking is weird, man. It's well, I got a lot of experience. Steven and I did a senior project together. We managed a couple ponds around his area, and we got to get up and do a presentation about that to graduate from college. And he was my partner there, and we got to work on our public speaking skills. And starting then, I wasn't really very good at it. I didn't feel like I was anyway. But we worked hard, and part of what we had to work on was public speaking. Especially if, the biologists have to go meet people and talk to people. And so I used to be scared of public speaking, dude. I really did. It was we had to take at Georgia. They made us take a speech class, and I didn't want to. I didn't like it. I didn't like speaking in front of people. I did not enjoy it. But to get through school, you had to do it. You literally had a gun to your head there. You're either going to go do the speeches or you're not going to graduate from this school. So that that experience was invaluable for me, all throughout my career, because after I left Georgia, I went to work for myself, managing ponds. And thanks, Wilson, man, appreciate it. And I had to go do speeches for like homeowners associations and my clients and stuff. And yeah, Steven's still making excuses for shocking himself to death. Like I said, man, we can laugh about it now, brother, but woof, that was a scary day. That was not good. That's no bueno. Anyway, um, Malone said he passed public speaking by singing songs. Hey, dude, you know what? I bet it's the exact same for musicians. You don't want to get up there and put yourself out there like that. But if you have any kind of fear, believe me, I had an irrational fear of it. If you have any fears of it, just get up there and do it. It happens to everyone. And eventually, after a few times, it'll go away. And then you'll be like me and you'll come on here for an hour and 9 minutes and not shut up. It'll all work out. It's not bad. Oh, Steven's got 6 to 8 trout spots. He's been in Smithcall. Oh, nice, man. I have to get with you when I get back up there, man. Man, I gotta talk about G-Crack, dude. It's the only people that treat me with any kind of respect. I gotta help those dudes out with some sales. Lure companies are weird, dude. I don't get it. Um, they get all the advertising in the world for free for to start with. So like every dude is out there like, I caught it on this, I caught it on that, and this and that, and blah blah blah. And that's fine, you know. But the part that the disconnect for me is like, if you're already talking about the lure for free, why on earth would anybody ever pay you to do it? And I think the internet was the best thing that ever happened for lure sales. But hey, man, I caught some nice fish on G Crack, and those boys sent me some plastic worms, and I have got, I mean, pounds of them. Like, I'm serious, like a 15-pound box comes about once a year of the G Crack stuff, and which doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I don't run out of Bell's Gills. People ask me all the time how much they cost. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to know. I get mine free. But yeah, those dudes are awesome dudes, man. And really just doing it right, in my opinion, you know, like good dudes to deal with, not big time of people, not I know they probably treat other guys the way they treated me, and send them some stuff, and you know, appreciate, give you a shout out on their page, and vice versa. Just like I talked about earlier, you know, nobody's getting rich in the fishing stuff. Um, and Steven's right now, and he's got his 4-H kids. He does 4-H too through the extension, and it's good, man. Get them talking. If you ever need me or anything up there, Steven, I'll be glad to help. You know, you don't have to ask, but if you need me, let me know, and I'll do anything I can do to help those kids. I think that's really important. Older I get, man, I just try to help people more and more. We're not here for a very long time, so we might as well be here for a good time, and help people along the way, you know. But I'm choking, and I'm gonna get off. I really appreciate you guys, though. Thanks for hanging with me, and all the questions and positive engagement and everything. It's been awesome. And I'll be back next weekend on here, and I'll be online all week. Thanks, boys.